Welcome to Supreme Book Dealer. My name is Wes, and I just finished reading All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley. So let's talk about it. But before we jump into our actual reading for today, let's talk about our authors, Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley. Jason Reynolds is a poet and a writer coming all the way from Washington, D.C. And in addition to All American Boys, he has written many other books such as Ghost and one of my personal favorites, Long Way Down. Brendan Keeley is also a New York Times best-selling author, and he is from Boston, Massachusetts, and he has written many other books such as Tradition and The Last Love Story. The Last True Love Story, to be precise. Now, All American Boys sits at 310 pages. Its publication is Simon & Schuster, and its publication date was 2015. Now, with all that said, let's jump into the actual story. So All American Boys is a dual perspective novel, which means that it is not just one protagonist, it is actually two. And our first protagonist is Rashad, who is, he's a high schooler, and he is on the receiving end of police brutality. And our second perspective, our second protagonist, his name is Quinn. Quinn is a white high school student. Rashad is black. I don't know if I said that, but Rashad is black and Quinn is white, and Quinn is a witness to the police brutality act that is inflicted upon Rashad. So now the story kind of highlights both of these characters and both of their experiences. So let's jump into it. So the book starts with the perspective of Rashad. Rashad is a member of the JROTC program in his high school, not really because he wants to be in it, but more so because his dad it's something that his dad pushes, right? So we got Rashad, who is a JROTC member, and it is Friday, and you know what happens on Friday night with high schoolers, or pretty much anybody for that matter. There's a party, and Rashad and his friends want to go. But before going to the party, they stop by a store, and Rashad goes into that store and is accused of stealing something by both the store clerk and the police officer. And because of that, the police officer starts to inflict violence and starts to physically harm Rashad. And that officer's name is Paul Galuzzo. So now we cut to Quinn, who is also in school, and him and his best friends, Dwyer and Guzzo, are hanging out, and they're also going to that same exact party that Rashad and his friends are going to. But before going to the party, they want some beer, because that is the drink of choice for high schoolers for some reason. So they go and Quinn volunteers to go get the beer. But before he can go to the store, he sees something happening outside. He is seeing Officer Paul Galuzzo brutalize this young man, Rashad. But Quinn doesn't help Rashad. Quinn just stands there and he watches everything unfold from a distance. Then he runs away, he tells his friends, and then we find out that Officer Paul Galuzzo is Quinn's best friend, Guzzo's older brother. Does it make sense? Paul Galuzzo. Guzzo, it's kind of like they shorten the name for his nickname. But yes, Quinn's friend and the officer are related. So you can imagine what this does to Quinn and what internal conflict this really puts him in. Okay, so now the stage is set. We have our conflict, right? So now Rashad is in the hospital and police custody, are recovering from the incident, and Quinn is now going through the story with this internal conflict. He's questioning things. You know, was Paul right? Was Paul wrong? Did Rashad deserve to get beat up? Did he not deserve it? So he has all these things and all of these other influences around him. Some people are saying that the officer was justified. Some people were saying that he wasn't. And this is the internal conflict that Quinn is suffering. And Rashad is more of an external conflict. Things are actually happening to him and he has to deal with that, right? So it's a very interesting dual perspective of a story, because one is really going through an internal conflict and one is going through an external conflict. So let's continue. What else happens in this book? So Quinn ultimately goes against his friends, his mother actually, because also friends with Paul Galezzo. But Quinn ultimately chooses the side of Rashad with a little bit of influence, but he ultimately thinks that Rashad was not a criminal, was not deserving of this heinous act. So he chooses the side of Rashad. He loses his friend, he loses a few of his neighborhood friends, a few neighbors who ultimately think that Officer Paul was correct, was justified, but Quinn does not share that same view. And we cut to Rashad, who is recovering in the hospital. His dad is a unique character because you can tell his dad is scared for his son, but his dad comes off as a person that doesn't necessarily side by him. And we find out later that Rashad's dad was a police officer, and Rashad's dad was involved in police brutality, where he also brutalized a young man and left him paralyzed. So this is a touchy subject for Rashad's dad. All of these things are important because all of these characters are kind of connected in some way. So the book ultimately ends with Rashad and Quinn wanting to participate in a rally against police brutality, and people telling Quinn that he should not participate. One of those people being his mom. And Quinn's dad, I think he was a police officer, but I know he was definitely in the military. So Quinn stands on the fact that his dad is a person that would do the right thing, who would do good things. And ultimately, that is what makes him side with Rashad, and that ultimately is what makes him want to participate in this rally. Rashad, on the other hand, wants to participate in this rally because this rally is really for Rashad. They're organizing it for him because he is on the receiving end of police brutality. And his dad, on the other hand, does not want him to participate in this. Ultimately, Rashad participates. Ultimately, Quinn participates. Ultimately, Rashad's dad does show up and does support his son. Do we get a happy ending? Not really. We don't know if Officer Paul is held accountable for his actions. We don't know any of this stuff, but we do know that Quinn stands by Rashad, even though they were not friends and they were not even really close. But in the end, they participate in this rally. They are fighting against police brutality. And that is exactly how the story ends. I love the fact that All American Boys is written in a dual perspective. I love the fact that we get two sides of the same issue, one as a person who's involved with it and one as a person who witnesses the crime. And we really get to see how that can weigh on somebody with choosing right and choosing wrong. And with Rashad, we get to see a person who is accused of doing something that they didn't do, and then their life was not taken seriously. Their life was not taken with care. A person can go get beat up, get abused, and people will still not side with them or still think that they deserved it, even though they did not, and they didn't do anything wrong. So this book is very powerful, and I think that the dual narrative, it really helps bring the story together because we get all sides of this really serious issue. Would I recommend you to read it? Absolutely. I think that you should go out there, check it out, read All American Boys, and also read the other books that these two writers have written, both Jason Reynolds and both Brendan Keeley. I truly think that this book deserves your attention and your time. And that's all I have for today. Go check out All American Boys. My name is Wes with Supreme Book Dealer. You can continue watching videos on this page. I will do my absolute best to try to be more consistent with my uploads. And I do apologize if I kind of left anyone hanging, but life kind of got in the way. But I'm back, I'm better than ever, and I'm going to continue to talk about books. You can follow me at Supreme Book Dealer on all platforms. You can comment this video, like this video, share this video, and if you would like for me to talk about a specific book, let me know. Also, you can connect with me if you want to send me an email at supremebookdealer@gmail.com. My name is Wes. Keep reading, be well, and peace.